please attend a call meeting of the City Council to be held in the 6th floor conference room, 801 Crawford Street, 6 p.m. Monday, July 8, 2013, for the purpose of a public work session. In addition, you may consider a motion to go into closed meeting by order of the mayor. Mr. Cherry?
Here.
Mr. Edmonds?
Here.
Mr. Meeks?
Here.
Mr. Moody? Ms. Simmons?
Here.
Ms. Randall?
Here.
Mayor Wright? Mr. Brooks?
Where is Mr. Okay, who hit Mr. Rowe? I know he's short, but he's there he comes.
Let me
He's
put
coming.
this. Let me put this in this one right here.
All rise.
Sorry I'm late. I thought I had 2 minutes. I was going to maximize the time. I hope everybody had a great 4th of July holiday. And I think it was really great that we were able to celebrate the good job that our team did this past year. It's a new year for us, and we closed out the old year on June 30th in great and grand fashion. And entirely due to our employees. They're our biggest and greatest asset. It's not our money that's our treasure, it's our employees that's our treasure. I really mean that. I'd like to introduce some new teammates tonight, but before I do that, I have a sad thing to report, and that's the retirement of Bill Park. I went on my first Chapter 10, or Mental Health Community Services Board in 1975, and I've served on several, so I know in detail what Bill's work entails. And I can say this, and it's not hyperbole, that Bill's the best behavioral health care department head that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And I have twisted his arm. I have put super glue on the soles of his shoes to try to keep him here. And I have been partly successful in the sense that he stayed a couple of months, but I've failed in keeping him beyond September 1. And Bill, come on up here. Bill's been with the city for 10 years. 10 years. A decade, and we're a better place because of his service. And I wanted to recognize Bill and give him a hug for that he's done. And so we started talking about succession. And you may know my philosophy. If we can promote from within, I think that is really great. We grow great talent here, and we find ourselves in an interesting situation. We have a great future in what Bill does, what his department does with the Affordable Health Care Act. And so that's a new frontier for every community services board and behavioral health department. And we're preparing for that, and the preparation started today. And that's by appointing Gracie Taylor as Bill's successor. Just talking about Gracie, what a great name. I mean, she exudes grace, and she exudes professionalism. And I think that we couldn't have made a better choice. And I want Bill to introduce Gracie. Gracie, will you come up too?
Good evening, everybody.
Good
It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Gracie Taylor. Gracie is going to be the successor to my tenure here as of September 1st. I have had the pleasure of working with her over the last 10 years and have in fact tried to help her move along and grooming her for greater things because she is just an incredible woman of talent. And I just think that she's bringing to the city, to behavioral health care services, and to the consumers that we serve a tremendous amount of knowledge, experience, and caring. And I think she's going to be probably the second best CSB director that's ever existed. So, Gracie Taylor.
I'm deeply honored that I was appointed in this position. These are indeed some heavy, big shoes to fill, but we have a lot of dedicated employees at DBHS, and with your support and the commitment from those dedicated employees, we will succeed. So thank you, and I look forward to the work that's ahead. Thank you so very much.
Our next teammate is not a stranger to our team. He went on a sabbatical for a period of time that only took him vertically down 3 floors. Actually 2, because your office was on the 5th floor. So it is with my great pleasure that we introduce our new purchasing director, Mike. And Carol, would you come up, and Mike too?
That's cute. That's cute enough.
Thanks, John. I'm thrilled to announce that Mike Ammons has rejoined the city in his previous capacity as purchasing administrator. Mike, many of you may know Mike. He's worked for the city for 9 years and did an excellent job as purchasing administrator. He also is probably the most knowledgeable person in this building about Munis, our accounting system, and he's the person who actually did the logistics in helping us to get closed out for the fiscal year. Mike is a retired naval officer, and when he retired, he moved to Hampton and started his second career in purchasing administration, ultimately starting with the city after a couple of other positions in the area. As John said, he went to the school division as their purchasing agent, but we were fortunate to be able to recruit him back to this key role in the city, and I'm thrilled to have him back.
Mike?
What is that going on? You say nothing.
Okay, I'm back. It's almost like coming home again. I mean, it feels really good. So it's good to be back. Had a lot of friends here. They never quite let me forget that they were still in the building. And everywhere I went, I saw a couple of people that kept reminding me that I need to be somewhere else. So it took a while to get back here, but we're gonna continue on and do great things. So thank you for your support.
And that's great. Now let me tell you a little story. In the summer, the school system goes on a 4-day work week, and so technically his resignation was effective June 30th. He comes in Friday to help us close out the old year, and was prepared to work over the weekend, and probably did, as we closed out a $500 million budget. So that's no small task, and thanks for doing that, Mike.
You're welcome.
I am so happy that he's here. Margaret and Wanda.
Introduce.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. I have the pleasure of introducing the Assistant Director for Parks and Recreation, Wanda Gill. Wanda and I started, well, we won't say how long ago, but she has over 25 years of experience, and we were colleagues at the beach and started all those new rec centers and all the new programs and the rec software and all those different things, class registrations. And Wanda has been with Virginia Beach, Hampton, and she's just recently moved from Atlanta because her husband's a biochemist, and his job moved him there. So she's back with us now, and it was just what you call a blessing, because she was back in town right at the time we had an opening. She has lots of experience. We've done, let me tell you, she's been on board, 2 weeks? 2 weeks. And I've been out with some sick leave, and she's already made a partnership with TCC, where we're gonna have an internship for the students in education to work in our before and after. She's mayor. She's started a program with the diabetes organization, and she's developed a partnership with Old Dominion University. She's sends me everyday updates, so it is just I'm so excited. It is so excited, and we have complimented each other. She is the information technology person I just know how to type, and read an email. So, and she's a finance person. And so we have some things that we want to work on in budget-wise to move recreation forward. And I'll tell you, you're going to see some great things happen, and I'm so excited to have Wanda.
I just want to say I am really indeed honored, and it's such a pleasure to be in the city. I love the emphasis on being the healthiest city and the place to live and work. I mean, I just think that's a great initiative, and been in recreation 25 years. I believe in the mission of the city and what you're trying to accomplish, and I'm ready to get to work. So it'll be my pleasure to work for you.
Thank you.
David.
Just got all kinds of good things.
Exactly.
Let me tee this up by saying this.
Because it is
One of the first things I did the first week was look at our tourism, and started a large conversation. And Boris, I want you up here too, if you don't mind. He's embarrassed because he didn't wear a coat and tie. And so he was hiding under the light switch. Pretend that this is a tie. But I started a conversation with these two gentlemen about how we could bring back the tour buses on High Street, as people would say. What we could do to get the secret about all the great things about Portsmouth out, not only to the Hampton Roads, but to the world. And so I challenged them with coming up with a plan. And their plan was to take one of the economic positions, development positions, and retitle it as the tourism administrator. And we wanted this to be a partnership between us and the private sector, because it's the private sector that benefits too from tourism. Our restaurants, our hotels, our businesses throughout the city. And so they came up with a wonderful idea, a wonderful plan, and a wonderful schedule to make this a reality. And so I would like for you to talk about the results of the work that you all did. Get over here.
I want to thank the city manager. I mean, there's so many great assets in this city to promote. We all know we've got really good people here that individually have been promoting those assets, our museums, our golf courses, our hotels, our waterfront. But for a number of years now, we haven't had anyone dedicated to really pulling together all those assets and marketing them effectively. So I want to give my boss the thanks for having the vision to bring this position, repurpose it. We all know what the economy's been like in economic development. I've got two very capable staff people in Mallory and Toy, so repurposing that position to bring in a tourism administrator made a lot of sense. We partnered, Lavoris and myself, as the manager mentioned, but beyond that, partnered with the Portsmouth Partnership and Ports Events. The interview process included Lavoris and myself, Ms. McKinney from HR, but also Bria Matchett and Don Comer. Bria from the partnership, Don from Ports Events, and spent 2 days interviewing a number of candidates, unanimously selected Mr. Schulte. I think the manager sent you a little information on him already, but by way of background, he comes to us from the Eastern Shore, where he ran the Tourism Commission over there. Prior to that, he ran the Petersburg Area Regional Tourism Alliance and developed some partnerships with Richmond, amongst other things, marketing Petersburg. And before that, spent the better part of a decade or more with the Convention and Visitors Bureau in Williamsburg. So we're very pleased to have him. Lavoris, would you?
Yeah, I just want to add that when we worked through the process of interviewing the candidates, some of the things we looked at was people who really knew about what was going on in Portsmouth. And a lot of them did their homework. David thoroughly did his homework. He knew about what had happened previously in Portsmouth. He had some ideas as to new markets and things that we could tap into. And looking at some of the low-hanging fruit. And so he talked about those things in his interview, and that's really what sold me on it, because some of the same ideas that he had were some things that we had discussed as well. So for as much as we are not reestablishing a CVB, the services that we provide, I think, will be equivalent to the things that we did before. Maybe not everything that we did before, but some of those things that we can do to help bring about feet on the street and heads in beds. I think that David has the experience and the wherewithal to do that and to make it a worthwhile venture for the city of Portsmouth.
Thank you very much. I want to say it's a real honor to have been asked to come here and work with the tourism industry here in Portsmouth. I'm looking forward to working with you, city staff, and also our tourism industry partners to help increase visitor spending here in Portsmouth. Wanted to let you know I've been a fan of Portsmouth for quite some time. Brought my children here when they were very small to the Children's Museum. I want to tell you how many years ago that was. Have taken the candlelight tour of Old Town in years past, attended conferences at the Renaissance. Have always felt that this is a very special place, and it's going to be great fun and very rewarding to go out and tell the world about it. So I look forward to bringing you up to speed on our plans in the future, and look forward to getting to know all of you very much.
I didn't embarrass you, did I?
No.
Our last teammate that we want to introduce, Carol and Peggy.
I'm pleased to introduce you to Peggy Morrison. As some of you may be aware, our former controller developed a serious health issue and unfortunately had to resign. But fortunately, we recently had hired Peggy as an accounting specialist 3, and Peggy comes to us with a very deep bench of experience in senior level financial positions. She has a bachelor's in accounting and an MBA from the University of New Orleans. She also is a certified public accountant, and she was most recently working for a private sector business here in the Hampton Roads area. But prior to that, she was the director of finance for North Bay Healthcare, which is a large medical service provider in the Bay Area of California. And the healthcare industry uses fund accounting, which is similar in many ways to the accounting system that we use here, which is also fund accounting. So I've appointed Peggy as our interim controller, and she's hit the ground running. She has a lot of energy and is looking continually at ways that we can make our processes better. She's been a huge help to me and to the staff, and I'm very glad that she was willing to take on this new role.
Okay.
Peggy's husband is a physician in the Navy, and they both live in Portsmouth. She actually lives within walking distance, which is
High Street.
She also, I mean, one of the things that she said during her interview that impressed us was that she's very invested in the community and was interested in the position because of her love of Portsmouth, and so we're very happy to have her with us.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because my husband and I, when we moved here, you know, we looked around, we didn't really know the area that well, and we fell in love with Portsmouth, and that's, it was just nice to know that I'm actually now going to be, you know, working with people that can make a difference here, because it's home.
You should be talking to the tourism guy.
I know, I thought about that actually as they were speaking. I'm like, great.
You're that first commercial.
We have a really great team of existing employees and quite a few new ones that Jerry and you know, helped us kind of build, and Carol just together. We have this group now that is really diligent and just excited, and I think that that's what's fun, because you don't always see excitement in accounting. So we're kind of, you know, really looking forward to seeing what we can do to help everybody and to just make Portsmouth an even better place.
I want to underline two things that Peggy said. We're here to make a difference, and we're here to make a better place. I mean, that's not the mantra of our organization. I think that says it all. And so I thank you guys for joining our team. Yes, sir.
If I could, let me welcome each and every one of you to the Portsmouth family. each one of you have very vital positions that we're all focused on. You mentioned earlier about some of our initiatives. We've got initiatives in each one of your areas that we're looking to highlight, to magnify, and try to bring the best out we can in those things. So I want to thank each and every one of you for considering Portsmouth, coming in here and hitting the ground running. But Mr. Parks, I need you to stand back up, sir, because I wanted to get back over here to the camera, because we want to, personally, I want to thank you for your years of service here. And you know, I'm out and about throughout our organization and throughout this city, and there isn't a soul anywhere that has anything bad to say about you. Your organization, I'm telling you, it was just outstanding to hear a lot of your people talk about your leadership and how we're able to get the things done that we get done in your department. And I know we've had some extremely tough economic times here these last 5 years of your, 10 years that you were here, but you've been able to provide those services and do it in such a way, the professionalism and the way your staff responds, all of them do, sir. And I just want to thank you for your time here. I guess we saw another part of each other during the Relay for Life the other day. We won't talk about my awful speech that I cried halfway through the speech, but thank you for your service to this city. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor. The first item, and you're welcome to stay, but you can leave if you like to. I'm not putting pressure on you. The first item that we have is the agenda for, and it's a draft agenda, and I can't underline draft enough. You can actually tear this up and start from scratch, turn it over, whatever. But we're scheduled to have your retreat this Friday all day, and then a half a day on Saturday. And as you know, we sent an email to you all asking for topics, and what we've structured is before you. And again, this is draft, but let me give you some background information as to why we put it this way. The first 45 minutes is some time for you all to talk about your processes, your current vision statement, anything else that you need to discuss as you approach the rest of the day. The next big block, though, is a very important block, and that's a discussion of our finances. And more looking to the horizon. And in trying to look to the horizon, we're going to be talking about trends in our revenues and our expenditures. And this will be a comprehensive look of what lies ahead for us. So Carol's going to lead that discussion. And again, we think this is important to get this topic first because it tees up what is proposed for the afternoon. In the afternoon, a discussion about residential development. My first meeting with you all, if you remember, was the last week in November of last year. And that evening, you had a proposal from the master developer for multifamily housing at Victory. And it was not market rate. And to a person, and you were pretty emphatic about it, in fact, very emphatic, that you did not think that non-market rate residential housing was appropriate there. And then you've re-emphasized that several different times over the last 7 or 8 months, that your goal is to try to bring about market rate multifamily residential development. In fact, to use a statement that some member of council said in the public discussion, is that you have the housing authority that's doing a great job in marshaling and putting together assisted housing development, whether it's through HUD or VHDA or some other source that possibly gives tax credits. Market rate development, though, is a function of location, and there's going to be some places in Portsmouth where market rate development will take place without any assistance, hardly a shove from the city. And I think maybe the best metaphor that I can use, though, is visualize the fact that you got $5,000 to invest. And there's a bank in Portsmouth that will give you interest of 1.6%, but there's a bank in Chesapeake that's going to give you 2.7. And where are you going to put your money? You're going to put the money where you get the best return. And that's not a metaphor that I use, that I developed. That's one that Patrick came up with as we've had many a long discussion about this concept of how we can implement your goal about having market rate development. We had a situation where we were sitting across the table from a very good developer, a developer that does multifamily housing, that does plenty of this product at the beach. And he showed us his 15-year pro forma. It's a proposed multifamily development off of Town Point Road. You would know the location. It was the old Food Line Shopping Center. And looking at his pro forma, he had 15 years, and all the numbers on the bottom line were in the positive, but they were not positive enough. He was looking for a certain rate of return, and he couldn't get that rate of return at that location. And how does he know that? Well, they have to do an analysis of the market in order to get their financial package put together. When they go to their lenders, their investors, the investors want to know what is the financial viability of this product. And so I thought it would be useful for y'all to have a discussion about, first, what is the trend kind of globally in the region on multifamily development, and then bring it down to Portsmouth. And then what will it take to bring about market rate development here? Now you might say, well, gee, that we got a market rate going now on London Boulevard at the old Charlie Falk site. Well, you know what? That's income restricted. The restriction's pretty high, but it's still not totally, truly market rate. So we think it would be really good for you to have that discussion. And there needs to be some outside voices that you hear from. You hear my voice and Fred's and Patrick's. But we thought it would be really good to get people who get up every morning thinking about multifamily development. So we discussed with two people, and Brandon, will you pass that out?
Sure.
The possibility of helping you have this discussion about multifamily market rate development. These are two individuals that do not have a product that's either currently under development in Portsmouth or on the table for possible development. And we've had a long discussion with them, a half-day discussion nearly, about how they could help in this conversation. And Patrick, would you come up? And again, you will not hurt our feelings if you say, no, we don't think it would be appropriate to have anybody, but I recommend that you have a voice. I get up every day thinking about the city. I get up every day coming to work thinking about the city. I don't get up every day thinking about multifamily development, but these guys do. And they know what it takes to get a deal. John on your list is working for a company that does a lot of the development in downtown Norfolk. And he can tell us, for example, Norfolk decades ago took parking off the table. parking is not an issue for developers. The city provides the parking and then provides the air rights above the parking decks for whatever comes next. And so it's looking for alternatives like that. What will work here? What would be politically acceptable too? I mean, when you've got an issue, if you're looking at 15-year pro forma and every number is in the positive, how do you tell your constituent that you're going to help improve that you're going to move it a percentage point up, you're going to make a person get more profit? So you have to find a way that's practical, that makes sense for the community, makes sense for our economic development, makes sense for your goal. You want to add anything about these two guys?
As the city manager said, both of them get up and do this on a daily basis, and it's two very valuable perspectives. Dan Johnson, we're all familiar with the firm CBRE. Dan buys and sells through investors either dirt for new apartment complexes. In fact, the one going up off of College Drive now, he had a hand in, or existing complexes. He was the broker on the property on Chewan that recently traded hands that the Breeden Company bought. And he does this all over the region and outside of the region as well. He's the gentleman that people turn to and say, what are the vacancy rates looking like in the metro area or in that locality? How are the rents trending in that region, in that locality? So he's the person that the Breedens of the world, the SL Nussbaums of the world turn to help evaluate a market. And the Robinson Development Group has a pretty extensive history, especially in Norfolk, although they do product outside of our region as well. They're very successful. They have nothing in Portsmouth, either that they own or are constructing, or that they're contemplating in the future. I'd like to see that change. They were one of the firms I talked to shortly after I got here, amongst others. And at the time, and they can share more with this if you choose to hear them, they were looking for somebody else to really come in and crack and prove this market. So they're watching Portsmouth. They know Portsmouth. They know the product. They know who's looking, who's doing what. They haven't done anything here yet, and I think it would be instructive for you to hear from them, first of all, how they evaluate a deal, what would drive them to do a project, whether it's a North Pier project or a Victory Village project, how they would go about it, and what they're expecting.
Thank you, Patrick. Then following that is a discussion about how people perceive us, not internally but externally. And I think that's really important for us to know. I mean, I feel good about Portsmouth. I see our warts, but I see the positive stuff too. And what gets you is the perception that people have. And so I think it's really good for us to have a discussion about that and talk about how we can test that. There are a lot of ways to do that. Have focus groups outside Portsmouth, in the region, other places in the state. What do they see as our strong points? What do they see particularly as our weak points that we need to change the perception? They may not actually be weak. It may, well, you got an email today about this lady that wants to do a convention here, and golly day, what she stated was just upside down. And so I think it's really important that we look and try to measure and determine how we're perceived. That feeds into the discussion about multifamily development. It feeds into who's the next person that's going to move into Portsmouth because it's a great place to live. That will take us to dinner time, and we felt that you wanted to go home. And we won't plan dinner for you that on Friday night, but we start again Saturday morning, and then Saturday is a half-day discussion on, as you can see, improving the arts, tourism, and downtown. Now, we need some direction from you.
Well, let me first of all say I like the idea of bringing these gentlemen in to talk in the area of their expertise. I think it's important always to know where we are, how to benchmark where we are, and what the going rate is in the region. I mean, we all know the uniqueness of all of the jurisdictions here, and we can't try to mimic what other cities do, but we need to know what our limitations are, what we can do, and how do we make projects work here, and what are some of the out-of-box type things we need to do. So I think it's important. I just caution you, I came in this office almost 3 years ago, and just prior to me getting here, we had one of these retreats with someone that came in and gave a presentation, and all I heard for my first 2 years was nobody did what that guy said, and that guy told us to do this. We're not here to take orders. We're here to listen about the market, understand where we are, and then we'll formulate those type of things. So please make sure there's no misconception, not either on the council or from those folks, other than bringing in. I think we actually did a piece of that, Patrick, with the Holiday Inn site, trying to get some ideas maybe about a year ago, what people thought of that site, what they would do, what they would not do, whether you hold it, whether you go with something that's a lot, I guess, less desirable than what we think that site deserves and all of that. And so I think it's great to have those kind of folk to come in, but I just want to make sure that, yeah, we got to understand what our limits are and what we can and can't do, because clearly we won't be able to do like Norfolk and take over parking. I mean, that one Wells Fargo building, I think they've got, what, quite a few $1 million just in the parking deck, and that project would not have gone forward if the city would not have done that. I want to say 20 million or 8 million or something like that.
Probably. And the key for what you just said, when we took back in 2007 proposals for the Desk Inc. site, we got 3. Each one of them had participation from the city, and primarily for parking. The one that we zeroed in on had a $8.5 million parking requirement from the city. So 8.5 million then, it's easy 20 to 25 million in Norfolk now. And that, again, is for residential development.
I think that's great. Any other comments on that? Yeah, Doc?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Manager, I'd just like to see us stretch out the vision statement, rules of procedures, and council relations just a little bit more than the 15-minute time that's there.
Okay.
I believe that's a key issue for us to really get into a little bit more.
How about we run that until 11? Is that fine?
Yeah, that'll do.
All right. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm with the mayor. I love having the experts from outside to listen to. The only other thing I'd like to really add here, because I like what you got.
Okay.
I'm absolutely with Bishop on the extending the time on the vision statement. But I'd like, if there are 7 of us, I'd like to add 50 minutes to the schedule for each of us to have 5-7 minutes to say, this is what I want to do in my if I was king, this is what I want to see in the next 2 years. Kind of like the mayor's Healthy Portsmouth. Well, what is Mr. Meek's idea? What is Mr. Edmonds' idea? Everybody else keeps quiet, and everybody gets their 5 minutes of, this is what I'm looking for.
Is that agreeable to everybody?
Yeah. Oh, no, I think that's great.
Do it Saturday morning, and that way you will have teed off. You've got the benefit of the finance, you got the benefit of your housing goal.
Sure.
Okay.
Ms. Randall?
Okay. One of the things I think it's very important for us is to realize the fact that we've always marketed Portsmouth as a family.
Yes, ma'am.
And with the family, everybody should have a voice or an opportunity to contribute to what the ultimate plan is going to be all about. I think sometimes we have a tendency to dissect the city into so many fractions that we never think about the fact that it all has to come together and operate as a whole, because it does not do the city any good if one part of the city is rising high and another part of the city is dropping. We always talked about the Portsmouth family. Now, as we visualize this plan, we need to think about what is going to be the best thing for the entire family. Because unless we are willing to lift up, we can't spread out. And I'm looking at that not only from the economic development piece, but I'm also looking at it in terms of the development and education of our people. So as we bring the city up, there are ways for our population to branch up, to build it up to the next level. But as long as we focus on just one little segment, that segment thrives, but all around it, the city dies. And that is my concern. If we're talking about truly lifting it up and look at a way where we all can survive, then we're doing some of the same things that we've done in the past, and we're going to come up with some of the same things that we're encountering now.
I think those are very good comments. We need to look at everything we do in a holistic approach, because it doesn't do us any good to go and invest over here and spend more money over here and doing something that does not work. And so all of those things need to be looked at together to make sure that what we're doing is going to rise and float all of the boats. And that's a very good point, Ms. Randall. Yes, sir.
Mr. Rowe, are you facilitating on Saturday?
Am I?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you volunteered. That's good. I think you'd be a great facilitator.
Because if not, who?
Well, I can't.
That's not a trick
unless you want. I had planned to helping and MC and direct everything that happened from 10:30 on Friday on. But I.
Well, that's fine.
That's good.
That's fine.
Okay, that's good. Just want to know, because before we brought in some other people, and I was going to say to you, I don't think we need anybody else. That was your plan this time.
I agree with you.
I think we did that before, and we know each other well enough to say what we got to say and how we got to say it. Agree with everything my colleagues had to say, because I think it's important to have those gentlemen, because we all have grandiose ideas on what we think we want to do. But to have an outside perspective to bring up some realism and into our thought process, that what's realistic, so we can get there, and we won't go marching down the road that this not realistic. So I think that'd be a great asset to have those gentlemen come in. I like to have 10 minutes to give my King for the Day speech, but I'm gonna do it in 5. All right.
But the citizen can do it in 5, we can do it in 5.
What we'll do, ladies and gentlemen, we'll revise this and send it to you tomorrow morning by email, and have a paper copy for you for tomorrow evening.
All right, very good.
All right, the next item is
This is a good idea with these two guys, Patrick.
And there are no ties on Friday and Saturday, right?
No ties.
Sounds like a winner.
Divorce, will you be, make sure?
It tells me what to do.
I got to tell a little story. George invites me to go over to the Avett brothers. And I said, George, I've never heard of them. And he said, well, go online. I said, okay, I'll go over there.
That was the Lumineers.
Lumineers. You're right. See, I'd never heard.
He got his rock groups mixed up.
I thought I was going to get thrown out of the joint. I'm the only person in that whole place over there in a coat and tie. You talk about a sore thumb standing out. But anyway.
Good.
On July 23rd, we're going to bring to you an ordinance to appropriate some additional funds for highway maintenance. And I thought it would really be good for us to have a discussion about highway maintenance, particularly given what came out of the last meeting of the Commonwealth Transportation Board. That's a board that's appointed by the governor. There's some at-large members, there's some rural members, but primarily they're representing regions throughout the state. But two of the people who represent this area had some disparaging things to say about how local governments use the money that they get from the state for highway maintenance. So James has put together a very good presentation that's going to cover that issue and kind of give you the background information for your consideration of the ordinance that we'll bring to you on the 23rd. But we also want to show you, too, where we stand with the Churchland Bridge. So, James, will you start?
And as he makes his way up, we have 3 members of the Commonwealth Transportation Board in this region: Aubrey Lane in Virginia Beach, Shep Miller in Norfolk, and Hollis Ellis.
Yes, sir.
And I think he's in Chesapeake, I'm not sure. But those 3 guys, they do a pretty good job. But again, the whole issue is that board is made up of all of the regional representations and what monies come here in Hampton Roads versus what monies go to Northern Virginia and Richmond, and it's the same fight on that level as we have here. And yeah, I think you're talking about Shep and maybe Aubrey.
Yes, sir.
The comments they made about how we do that. So
Shep, the former, or maybe still NRHA director?
yeah, and with the chamber, he was with the
Yeah,
chamber.
Housing Authority, you're right.
Yeah,
Now,
right.
Is he still the director?
I don't know if he's
Oh, no,
the
he's not the
director.
director. I think he's on the board.
Yeah, and he's on the board of the chamber as well.
Okay, good
Yes, sir. How are you?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight's briefing, we're going to talk about state funding for road maintenance, and I'm going to give you an update on the funding status of the Churchland Bridge Replacement Project. Looking at our local roads, the City of Portsmouth has approximately 887 lane miles of roads, and that's broken into 2 categories: arterial roads, which we have approximately 190 lane miles, and collector and local roads, which we have approximately 700 lane miles. A lane miles is a mile of road travel at the standard width for a lane. So that's a lane, 1 mile plus a 12-foot lane. Now it's a mile. Now it's for travel. So turning lanes don't count. Alleys are not included in this. So our the lane miles that we get funding for are all moving lane miles. So if you can travel on it with your car, that's what we're getting. That's what we're getting paid for. Definition of an arterial road: if you think Frederick Boulevard, Victoria Boulevard, either your high-capacity roadways that take you from major city centers or try to get you to the interstate. A collector road takes you from a neighborhood to an arterial. An example of a collector road would be Caroline Avenue, King Street, and West Haven. Similarly, your local roads are just your normal neighborhood roads. And as you can see, we have approximately 3.5 more of the local and collector roads than we do the state arterials. Okay, annually.
Alexander's Corner would fall into which one of those categories?
Alexander's Corner, Portsmouth Boulevard, arterial. Airline Boulevard, arterial. Turnpike, arterial. I think McLean is a collector.
Just McLean is.
Okay, every year the state provides the city with funding for maintenance, construction, and reconstruction of the roads that are in our system. This year, they provided just under $19,000 per lane mile for the arterial roads, and just under $11,000 per lane mile for the local and collector roads, for a total of just about $11.2 million. We also receive additional funding from the state for maintenance because we have property that belongs to the port, and so they pay us in maintenance payments in lieu of taxes. And this year, that number is just over $200,000. So the total amount in state funding that we're going to get is $11.4 million. Now, what the manager asked me to do is to take a look at what we actually expend on a road to maintain it, because there's been a lot of discussion at the state level, specifically at the Commonwealth Transportation Board, about looking at the existing formula that they have for dispersing payments for street maintenance, and also setting actual priorities to tell cities and towns how they're going to spend these funds. So if we look at what it takes to actually maintain a city road, so you're looking at streets and highways, you're looking at stormwater, you're looking at street sweeping, you're looking at engineering, traffic engineering, you're looking at grass cutting. You're looking at that portion of public utilities projects, particularly paving and those types of things that are eligible. You're looking at capital improvement projects, and you're also looking at staff time. Took a conservative estimate, and as you can see these numbers here, we're spending about $10,000 more per arterial lane mile, about $6,500 more per collector and local lane mile, which leaves us at about just under $18 million. And so you can see the difference there of about $6.4 million of what we anticipate spending this year versus what we're getting. Now, in reference to how they think we're spending local funds, annually, a representative from VDOT comes over and goes out with city staff, and we ride the arterial roads and do a pavement condition assessment. That's done yearly. This year was done in March. And we left at 8:30 in the morning, finished up about 3 o'clock. We got a report back out of the approximately 190 arterial lane miles. We had deficiencies on 2 of those lane miles, so about 1%. So I think we're doing a pretty good job of maintaining the roads that we have. Key to note in that is that if you have upcoming projects, say you're planning to pave, say in the next couple of years, or you have a large capital improvement project, they take that into consideration when they're doing their inspection report, and those roads do not go on that report. Okay, speaking of the upcoming city council meeting, as you saw in slides before, we have an actual state payment of $11.4 million. Our budget estimates are based on previous years, so our budget estimate is just just a little bit over 11 million. So there's a difference in what we're actually what we estimated versus what we're actually getting, and so that difference is just under $300,000. And so you'll see an appropriation coming up in a future council meeting. Before I get to the bridge, are there any questions about road maintenance?
Where are we planning to take that money from, the 300,000, John?
Oh, no, this comes from the state.
This is additional. They actually gave us more money.
This is lane mileage money.
Oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
When we put the budget together, we use conservative estimates, and so we based our estimate on last year's payment. And the state is actually going to give us $300,000 more than what's in the budget. And so the ordinance will appropriate that money back into the road maintenance plan so we can do more.
Okay. Go back a couple of slides, because you showed a delta of about $6 million there of what we need to spend and what we're going to be getting here from the state.
Yes, what we will spend.
This is what we will spend. Possibly what we will spend.
Yeah. This is what we get from the state.
Who's going to swallow that $6 million?
This is what we'll spend this year, 17.8 for a delta, a difference of 6.3 million.
But that's in our budget.
That funding's
That's in our
dispersed through
budget.
different departments.
We just-
There's different types of.
Shorted ourselves, budget-wise, $298,000.
Well, we
didn't expect.
Right, because we used a conservative
Conservative
estimate on our revenue.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, we use the state number.
Yeah.
Which.
But this is the important number. As you think about, again, the Commonwealth Transportation Board's discussion, and at least 2 members saying cities don't spend the money wisely, we can spend all the money that they want to give us. And that's still, I mean, this is conservative. This is probably on the low side, the 17.7. I mean, we've got a lot of streets, sidewalks, storm sewers to maintain. And on the whole, we do a very good job. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dr.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Wright, I don't know whether or not this comes under this topic, but you did say about that it covers cutting grass or trees
Yes, sir.
that cover the...
In the right of way.
Okay, collector road like Rotunda in Cavalier Manor, there's a fence that backs up next to the interstate.
Okay.
And the trees on that side where the interstate are, and they're blocking some parts of the road, the collector road, which is Rotunda. It goes all the way down from Portsmouth, all the way down to
The
Chesapeake
Chesapeake.
section as well. Would that be in that area?
I think I actually know the street that you're talking about. I went out there, and not only the trees are blocking some signs there too. Let us check into that.
Okay.
We looked into that last year, and that is a VDOT responsibility.
Yeah,
They just
but I-
don't have funding to do it, and I think we went out there, and I think the sheriff carried some of his folks out there
To help you.
just to try to clean that fence and get some of that stuff back off the roadway, but
Exactly,
it
and we did
falls in
this-
some of those areas
Sure.
that VDOT are. That grass cutting, I've actually called the administrator, and what he told me is they're doing 3 cuts a year. That's it. Okay, and it's really poor, but 3 cuts a year, that means we're gonna look at this most of the year, and most of the comments that I get are from citizens that think that's our responsibility, and they wanna know why we aren't keeping the grass cut and those types of things, and it's, I mean, I just come up 264 yesterday, I think they've got half of it done, and from about Victory Boulevard coming into here, it's about 3 foot high, and I have no idea, and again, I called about that, they're gonna do 3 a year. And so, and they say they do that statewide, so it's not just Portsmouth, so they're gonna do 3 cuts a year. Can you imagine that?
And if you know of more streets like that, let us know, because we actually called the sheriff's department on that section that I saw.
Yes, ma'am.
I think one of the things we need to bear in mind too, that there are people that drive through, that drop off some things, and the city needs to
litter.
make sure trash that's unnecessary. So maybe we might need some type of monitoring that are people passing through on that cut through going back, and they're just dropping off the trash bags, and that shouldn't be, or if that's out there, then the city trucks that go back to service the residents ought to stop to pick that trash up.
And we do. If we find tires in the right of way, we pick them up.
That's
And
right.
it.
We need to get it out.
Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up what you're doing, James. You're gonna get to the Churchland Bridge, is that right?
Churchland Bridge.
Yeah.
Our most recent estimate for the Churchland Bridge is $29.5 million. The state has given us for design $1.25 million. They've recently given us another $1 million for right-of-way clearance. To date, we have just under $6 million appropriated. So you see the bottom line number there. About $21.5 million is needed to balance that out for construction. We have the possibility to go for additional revenue sharing from the state. The max we can get from that is $10 million, $5 million each fiscal year that we apply. But there are also potentially other, maybe federal, maybe some other type of state funding available. So as we continue forward with the design of this project, we'll continue to look for different avenues of funding to lessen the burden on citizens.
Now, James, what is our share line with the state, with the revenue sharing piece? How much? Is it dollar for dollar match or?
Dollar for dollar.
So if we need $21.5 million to be able to repair the Churchland Bridge.
7.5.
Okay. So that means half of that money we need to come up with if we can get the other half from the state, if we don't get any assistance from the federal government.
Right. If we do revenue sharing, it will be a 1-for-1 match, and so we would have to come out with the matching funds for that.
And we,
however, projects are able to have more than one funding source. So if we can find other funding sources and take advantage of them, we will.
The Department of Transportation on the federal level has been, I can tell you, the outgoing Secretary, Ray LaHood, has been a godsend to mayors. I mean, everywhere he goes, this guy get high marks. He just left office. The president is huge on these cities and these type of projects, and he actually put a mayor in that position. Anthony Fox, the mayor of Charlotte, is now the U.S. Department of Transportation, and because he takes it that seriously. So I don't know what they have out there, but I'd really like to know what all those things are, because each year when we go to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, there is a transportation hearing, and those guys want to know those types of things. So we can reiterate some of the things we're trying to get. They've got the TIFIA grant money, and then they've got another program. They've got 2 federal programs that they've got money in, and so I don't know how we approach the whole lobbying piece of that, but yeah, please let me know how we can do that. But Mayor Anthony Fox now is the federal guy, and I mean, you know, and so And that's one of the things the president talks about. He talks about the cities and these roads, and he's got a highway and a construction fund that is being tied up in Congress, and they've got a lot of money that he wants to release to get a lot of this type stuff done. So, with it, yes, sir.
I was going to ask him, last time we spoke to us about this, you were fairly optimistic about the possibilities of additional funding. You still feel that way?
VDOT, and not so many words to come out and specifically say it, but if you've already received funding on a project, it's more than likely that if funding's available, you will get additional funding as you move forward with the project.
And this project is on the TPO's list, is one of the approved lists, but is not fully funded. And,
Exactly.
Correct.
and it is there with all the other projects within the region, and it's probably a good, I think we gave you all a list of that the last time around. It's probably about a good 40 or 50 of them, and there's only 2 projects here in Portsmouth that are on that list. That's the Midtown Tunnel and the Churchland Bridge. I don't think we had anything else on that list. Most of the others were spread out in the other cities.
2 points. One, you have a new transportation financing formula that went into effect July 1. No longer is financing in the state of Virginia tied to the gasoline tax. Your sales tax went up. Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads has a piggyback on that sales tax too. So the TPO, the Transportation Planning Organization, the mayor represents Portsmouth. Page is the alternate. The voting at that table is weighted by the size of the jurisdiction. It's gone through the process of trying to determine how to allocate the additional funding that will come to Hampton Roads. To pick up on what the mayor said, this project has been prioritized, and in fact all the projects in the region have. But that's quite dated. That was done 5 years ago. And so when we represent you at those meetings, our position is there needs to be a centering of those priorities because some may have moved up on the priority list. The second thing I wanted to point out is that, remember, this is only 2 lanes of a 4-lane bridge. The cost for replacing half the bridge is $30 million. And it's technically the northbound lane because that's north Route 17, but it's the westbound lanes. So we wanted to give you an update on where this project is funding-wise. The good news is that we've got the nose of the camel under the tent. It's already funded to a degree by the state, which puts us in a better position.
And lastly, on that prioritizing these roads in the region, talking with the mayors and chairs, I don't think there's a stomach to do that because they feel that if we go back and reprioritize, even though that data is 5 years old, that we're going to look crazy in front of the state. I don't know what the rationale. Dwight thinks he's got Dwight Farmer is the executive director. He's got a model that is perfected, and even if we go through and reprioritize, he don't think it's going to change that much. And so there's been quite a bit of discussion on it because there are some things, and I question how some of those projects were weighted.
Yes, sir.
And that's how they became number 1 on the list or number 2 on the list. And I've been not trying to shoot down the Midtown Tunnel because we needed the thing. It has bothered me since I've been in that meeting is how did that become number 1? If you look at all of the other areas and things that from a congestion standpoint, that Midtown Tunnel is not going to relieve that much congestion. But it got to number 1 on the list way before we got here. And so how it got there, what were the weight elements and how they did that, and I don't think Dwight and them want to, I don't think they want to revisit all of those things, because I really, if you look at the high-rise bridge on 64, and you look at some of the things with the third crossing, I mean, I really think a third crossing coming from the Hampton Roads, the Naval Base, tying into the Monitor Merrimack and maybe doglegging into 164 is going to do more from a relieving of congestion than building a Midtown tunnel.
Right.
I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, because you got about 45,000 cars coming through there a day, and all of the traffic at the NOB, those people would take that route. And so I think they're afraid if they go and recalculate and redo this, we're going to wind up with a whole bunch of different priorities, and then I think they feel it's going to send a signal to the state that, hey, what are these guys down in Hampton Roads doing, because they told us they wanted this. And so I don't think they want to visit that, because we had a deep conversation about that. But yeah, it really does need to be done, because different things were used in the formula to weight those things, and I think the mayor in Chesapeake is also pushing to want to have it recalculated, because a lot of the things that we do here is going to push. And I think there was an article just this weekend with all of the truck traffic that's going to be going on 64, and if those tolls do take shape, and what it's going to do to Military Highway, and what it's going to do to 64 on the high-rise bridge, and all you're doing is pushing all that traffic around in different areas. And so I think there's a need to redo all of it, but the majority of them thinks that if we do that, we're just going to send the wrong signal. And so anyway.
That's our presentation.
Okay.
All right.
Can you get the light?
So that $30 million is just for half of that bridge?
Yes, sir.
Well, call for some more money from taxpayers.
Say that again, James.
It's two bridges. It's replacing the old two bridges.
They built that
Sounds
bridge.
I fish under it all the time. I look and see it. I was like, man,
That's
that thing. Okay.
The next item is a briefing on the school funding. We're going to have an ordinance on your agenda for the 23rd. On the 25th of June, 2 weeks ago, almost tomorrow, Carol and I met with David Stuckwish and his CFO, Mira, and we wanted to talk about the closeout of the then current fiscal year, which was just less than a week away, and talk about the details of implementing this fiscal year. And we had a very good discussion, and I reminded David that you're charged by law to appropriate all the funds that are spent in this city, either by the city or by the schools. Doesn't make any difference what portal it comes into this building, whether it comes in the door, under the door, over the transom, through the window, or whatever, you have to appropriate the funds. And any funds that are left over at the end of the year have to be reappropriated unless they meet the strict compliance with encumbrances. I guess we met for almost 2 hours, and I have some good news to report. The school board had a call meeting last Tuesday, a week later, in which they reorganized their leadership. This was the 2nd of July. And at that meeting, they considered a resolution in which they adopted, and they're asking you to reappropriate what they normally in the past would have encumbered, which is approximately $6.4 million. And in addition, they are asking that you amend your capital budget to appropriate just about $300,000 into the CIP for a fire alarm system at Wilson High School. So this is great progress. No longer will that number show up, a number like that, of that magnitude in their CAFR of encumbrances. It will come back to you for reappropriation. And barring some unforeseen situation, I'm going to recommend to you that you appropriate every penny back to them as a good faith effort.
The $6 million that we're going to reappropriate back, does that also include the 300?
No, sir.
It does not?
That's a separate.
Okay, how did that get left out? Because they talked about that about a year ago, and that's always been in the works. And when I saw your email, it baffled me.
David's explained it to me. They've had it. They took it. They had it ready, and they actually took bids, and they had a apparent low bidder. And Mike, I'm going to go out on thin ice, but I'm not going to put you on the spot. I think it'd be a conflict. And the school board said, we're not ready to pick this vendor. Go back, Mr. Superintendent, and your staff, and redo this. And it went back at least one more time, if not three. And so here's a project that had been ready, it had been designed, it actually had been bid, it had gone to the school board in a meeting for the award of the bid, and it didn't happen. Well, now it's ready to happen. And so they're giving us the $300,000 and asking us to appropriate that into our CIP. Remember, the goal is to, from this budget forward, to have all the school capital projects in the CIP.
Yeah, at the same time.
And except for a couple of cleanup projects that they've got, they're in the final stages of closeout. And it does make sense that they go ahead and close those out. We don't need to be haggling with the contractor on a punch list or with the architect that, gee, you put the door design wrong, and the handle should have been on the left, not the right, things like that. Let them handle that, close out those projects, but from here on, whether it's a $100,000 project or a multi-million-dollar project, it goes into our CIP.
Okay. I think that's great.
I do too.
Yeah.
Okay, I had sent you, new subject, an email today about an inspection report from the EPA. The EPA came and did an inspection of our stormwater management program, and they sent us a PDF of their report. We're trying to decipher what they have said. They have findings, Findings, and typically when the EPA has a finding, there's essentially a penalty that goes along with this. Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to figure out where we stand on the findings and if in fact it results, but they don't mention a penalty in the report, not that we see. We of course will appeal that and do everything that we can to avoid paying that. But I wanted to let you know and let the public know too that we have this report and it's fresh. I mean, it really is fresh. And James, can you just cover the highlights of what we know?
Sure. Last summer, the EPA came into town and did what they call a compliance inspection. It's really an audit of our stormwater program because we have the stormwater permit that the EPA enforces. On June 25th, we received, approximately a year later, a little bit over a year later, we received the report that had their findings and recommendations for program improvement. Their findings were general in nature as far as things that they recommended that we could do to improve the program. Things such as cleaning up certain databases, actually had us doing inspections that aren't part of our existing permit but will be part of our future permit. Having written SOPs for different practices that we employ other than just having the people there with the knowledge that know what you do. They want to see something written down so that, say, someone gets sick or someone leaves, that next person will have something to go by. EPA is real big into documentation. They've given us 45 days to respond to those findings. We'll respond. Staff will go over the comments, put together a response, get with our legal department, send those findings back to the EPA. Our responses won't change the report, won't change any of the results. They'll become part of the public record for that inspection. There is no fine at the moment. I say at the moment. EPA, when they used to come out and do a compliance inspection, audit, they just give you the recommendations. Here in this last permit cycle, they've come out, they've given you the recommendations, everybody has received a fine. Like I said, we don't have a fine at the moment. I anticipate a fine. The fines we've seen are somewhere between $77,000 to $165,000. You will have the opportunity to negotiate that penalty down or actually do some water quality improvement project in lieu of the fine. So there are avenues once we actually get the final that we will have a chance to take a look at.
Question, James. The audit that they performed was an administrative audit. This is all how our procedures and how we document and do things in-house. It was nothing outside that actual water was running off, and you know where I'm getting at with our TMDL. We've got a big issue with the PDC, which I'm going to be the incoming chair, and Tom Shepard has been hammering this with EPA and trying to find out what the requirements are, when they're going to actually institute it, because some of these things, as in his words, are going to bankrupt a lot of the cities because of all of that. So none of that was that. This is all administrative. They went through our procedures and standard operating stuff and say, we like this, we don't like that, where's the record that you did this and that?
The TMDLs are not actually part of this permit.
It is part of it?
Not part of the one when they came and did the inspection.
A year ago.
Our new permit, they will be part of that permit. But when they come in and take a look at your program, they look at everything. So they're looking at your administrative records, they're looking at your plan review, they're looking at how you inspect sites. They go out to the school board's yard that we have a MOU with. They go out to a Frederick Boulevard yard, see how we do facility inspections. So it's everything that you do as part of the program. They look at the whole kit and caboodle.
That's going forward.
Going forward.
Whenever they come in, they look at everything. It just so happens that the TMDL is not part of the permit that they looked at.
That's what I was making the point.
It's not part of the permit that they looked at, but moving forward, it will be part of our future permits.
Now, I know you say this is fresh and you're just getting it, but normally they categorize these findings in severe, minor, mediocre. If some of this stuff is just quick fix type stuff, or have you had a chance to smell it? That
not so much. They didn't give a lot of detail as into some of the things that they saw. They were more specific in the recommendations for program improvement. They gave us a period of time after the inspection, a 30-day period, to actually provide them additional information based on the inspection, how staff thought the inspection went, and some of the things we knew they were asked for. We took a proactive approach and went ahead and started to implement some of these things that we knew they were going to ask for, and sent that information to them as part of that 30-day period after the report. So some of the things that they may have mentioned in their findings, we tried to basically cut them off the pass and get that information to them early. So, and we've continued to move forward.
That might help from a penalty standpoint. That might lessen the penalty.
That's our hope. So yeah.
And we're good scouts.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
How long would it be before we find out what the penalty would be?
We're working on that.
You've got 45 days to respond, and then they'll take that, and based on your responses, then they'll make an assessment.
I mean, you could see it as many as 30 days. Some people have not received anything for a year. Norfolk received their findings, responded, thought they were in a clear. A year later, boom. So.
Okay.
But it took them a year to get you this stuff in the first place.
Yeah, it was supposed to take 3 months for us to get the report findings back, and it took a little bit over a year.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Stay tuned on that, right?
Yes.
We have one last thing, and I'm putting Dennis on the spot. We're on the agenda for the work session tomorrow evening to give you an update on recycling. You also will be considering the food truck. So if we can lighten the load in work session to give you more time tomorrow evening, we can put Dennis on the agenda in the public meeting so he gets TV time on a larger audience. But what we're doing about recycling is really, really good. Are you his agent?
Yes, sir.
All right. Dennis, do you mind coming up and give a very quick update on where we are on recycling very quickly?
I will. Wow, today was a exciting day for us. We started
delivering cans to neighborhoods, and the phone's been ringing off the hook. There's several things that we'll be I didn't bringing get out tomorrow mine. night. Where's mine? We actually started in Churchland down Rivers Shore Road to the north and to the west, and we'll be moving back this direction. So Monday's route was delivered today. Okay. Not all of them, a portion of them were delivered today. Don't forget, Wednesday night is Meet the Driver event. Big deal. Vitawee Pavilion. Hope to see everyone there. We've got a lot of things we'll bring up tomorrow night about that for the public to hear. A really exciting time. Trucks are geared up, can have all the emblems on them. We've got so much help from the marketing department. There's some PSAs running on Channel 48 now. There's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I got the number of hits on all of that somewhere here. John kind of caught me off guard. So People are getting excited about it. They're calling, and we had 4,212 impressions on Facebook, 75 shares, 76 comments. YouTube had 126 views just since Friday. So a lot of people are excited. I've got a couple things hand around to you. This has remember I talked to you some time back about what we'll be accepting. That's listed on the side along with pictures. And is that going to be inside the lid of the trash can? That's inside the lid. And if you haven't had a chance, you can look around on the terminal property at the corner of Lee Avenue and Cleveland Street. We've got 10,000 cans sitting out there, and we're having about 3 or 4 truckloads a day coming. This is a mailer that we've been going out to the citizens. It was mailed today, right? I'm keeping my dates straight. It was mailed today, so everybody should be getting that. That's just something I threw together in case you wanted to see it. It's actually a nice carded brochure, so all the citizens will be receiving that hopefully tomorrow. Well, let's just hope with all the excitement and all the questions that we're getting. Now, we targeted in our formula at about 20% participation or 40?
20.
20%.
I mean, with the noise that I'm hearing, hopefully we'll blow that away. And
Yes,
that's
sir.
good news.
Absolutely. And what we want to become a community that recycles everything.
That's right.
That nothing gets thrown away. That's our goal.
Separating.
We've got a lot of things to look forward to with SIPSA post 2018, and we want to be on the leading edge of that. And this whole zero waste thing is something that we should all get excited about. We're really discussing that, and we're trying to be.
Yes, sir. Dennis, get everybody a copy of that.
And that's going to be posted inside the lid of the trash can. Flip your lid up on you your flip it up, you'll recycle see bin. that. You'll see that in there.
That's right.
I think that's nice.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good job.
Can I answer any questions on anything?
No, I want to commend this whole marketing effort. Everybody
That's right.
They seem like they know more about it than we do, other than with the dates. And I think I've got the 18th and the 19th mixed up, and one of them called me back and told me it was the opposite date. So citizens are watching the television, and they're seeing us talk, and hopefully this ramp up will be extremely positive. And hopefully, how does that work though? We'll get a lot of folks excited and then it'll die down, or do they get excited and then it increases? Can you come Do up, we know? I mean, somebody knows how to do those numbers. Donna is, she's going to Civic League meetings. She's keeping people excited. know. Her job is, Come on up. They're telling me about you. Everybody. I can't tell you how lucky we are to have Donna, because she's out there every night at some Civic League meeting, chomping at the bit, trying to get people ready to recycle. And I don't see that effort going down at all.
Are you excited?
We're excited.
I mean, when I was an inspector, every day I would ride through neighborhoods and they would say, "Why doesn't Portsmouth have recycling?" So now we're excited to say that we do. So I hope to see all of you Wednesday night, so you can test drive, test roll a cart, see how you like that. If you want to get inside the recycling truck, we'll let you do that too.
That's Wednesday night.
Yeah, really, that part of it. But yeah, we're excited, and I'm getting lots of calls. The public's excited about this, and that's what we're doing this for, the citizens. And really, and we're going to be helping the environment too. So come on out on Wednesday night to meet our newest environmental heroes.
So talk a little bit about the analyzation of the data. How do we find out whether we are at the 20%, 40%?
We're going to see it in what we tip at the
So you're just going to look at what are we minusing on that?
Yes, sir.
Because we're what, 5% of that was, is that our There's actually two pieces of that. One is
One's landfill. Go ahead.
one of those. One of the things that we'll be able to see is our decrease in our tipping, the number of tons at the transfer station. But the other thing is we'll have we've got these electronic readers and tags in each one of the cans, so we'll know exactly how many households are actually participating. We won't know necessarily whether Mayor Wright's can was full and the Vice Mayor's can was half.
Stand up and salute.
Was half empty. But
You should be able to tell by the tons at the end of the day or end of the month.
But we won't be able to tell specifically how much your house is recycling versus
Edmund's
house is recycling. But we'll have a really good feel for what the number of houses are in particular neighborhoods. We'll know exactly what the total weight that we recycled. We'll know the decrease in the tipping and the tonnage at the transfer station. And then with the data that we're collecting on the trucks, we're going to be able to go back into those neighborhoods and focus on, and I think I've said this to you before, if you've got a neighborhood that has 1% participation rate and you've got one at 50% participation rate and you've got one at 20% participation rate, which one do you think you need to try to focus your attention on? Not the one with the 1% and not the one with the 40, but the one in the middle. And I think those numbers that we collect from the trucks will be able to kind of direct our marketing campaign, and we'll continue to work with our marketing staff, and Donna will be working with the communities individually. We've got some parts of the contract that we require our material recycling facility to also participate in those neighborhoods that we're targeting. Like it could be bringing an ice cream truck in, it could be part of an event for that community or something, kind of a neighborhood challenge. One neighborhood challenges another. So we've got a lot of ideas, but this data that we collect from the trucks will give us the information we need to be able to target. So you're collecting the data from the trucks of what you're getting, and you ought to be able to get a backdoor that number with, you got historical data on what we normally average from a waste and what that decrease would be, and hopefully those two should be somewhat in line. They should be. I think what you're going to find. Do our trash just increase over the years? Is it like a 4 or 5% increase, or I think tonnage? What you're going to find is that they're not going to change at the same rate, because I think once people are going to recycle a lot of things that they weren't recycling before. Because keep in mind, we're not just recycling single stream, which is our stuff that's picked up curbside. We're also going to be recycling all of our bulk waste that we were taking to the landfill and taking and parts of it that were non-processable, we're taking to SIPSA.
That's good.
All of that material is also going to be counted for as recycled material. So that's what really shoots our numbers up, and what we were taking to SIPSA is going to go down tremendously from that. Okay. All right, very good. Good job, by the way. They like you at the Civic League meetings.
Any other questions? I want to emphasize 2 points. One, there was an article that came out in the paper on Sunday about our bond sale. It had a quote in there that bond rates had increased 19% from the time that we sold. And that's now old numbers, 24%.
Oh,
and so
good.
our timing, your strategy, our strategy
everything. That's
to get to the market was really important, and it's paid off. Number one. Number two, we have a war going on, and that's a war against the mosquitoes. And I'll keep you up to date on how that war is progressing. I'm sad to say that the other side might be winning at this particular point in time. Primarily because of Craney Island. And Yusuf and his staff has been out to Craney Island talking about what they can do in order to eliminate the standing water out there, and ways that we can possibly partner with them to do things that they would do, and they reimburse us the cost. So I just wanted to give you a quick update on that.
Did you see that piece today on Wavy? The fellow from the Botanical Gardens, that's his job, to keep mosquitoes away over there. And he had several plants and things that you can actually put in place that actually keep them away. I thought that was interesting.
I got Mosquito Joe. It works great out there where we live.
But he had several plants that he's actually planting out there to keep them from there. And I was like, man, I wonder how much how much reliable is that? So we probably need to go over to the Botanical Gardens and at least talk with that guy.
Thank you, sir.
Mike,
Thank you, ladies and
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Any other reports, any liaison reports? Okay, is that it? All right, we're adjourned. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. Now I get my dinner that I didn't.
Yes, sir, Granddaddy.